Before we start, I want to acknowledge that we are hosting this event on occupied lands that is the traditional territory of numerous First Nation groups, including the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat peoples, and more recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit. As settlers, we have directly benefited from the ongoing colonization, genocide, and destruction of indigenous livelihood and culture. But also, as people who are resisting colonization and genocide from an authoritarian regime, we deeply feel for the indigenous people and their struggle. Thank you so much. So now we'll be doing some of our national anthems and solidarity songs. First, we have the Canadian National Anthem.
When I'm Member of Parliament Garnet Janice, my grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, and I've seen the images, as many of you have, of the 1936 Berlin Olympics, where in the midst of plans being laid for genocide against the Jewish people and other communities, the Nazi regime had a great kind of propaganda victory through their Olympic Games.
We join force today to call for a boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympic Games. The Chinese Communist Party is responsible for its horrific crimes against humanity, including genocide in the East Turkestan region and Tibet. For many years, our brothers and sisters of these oppressed regions have learned that the CCP's promises are a cruel joke. Now, the Hong Kongers start to learn this bitter lesson as democracy, human rights, freedom, and rule of law in Hong Kong disappear. And as mass arrests of political dissidents and journalists continue.
I just want to give you a very little introduction why my brother here is holding a beautiful girl's picture here. Her name is Mikai Erkin. She was a scholar, researcher studying in Japan. She was forced to come back to her home country, which is Chinese-occupied Turkestan. CCP was forcing her parents and telling her to go back. She did. Before she departed in Tokyo last year, her friend demanded her not to go because CCP would not be trusted. Her life would be jeopardized. She might get killed, but she said she would like to go and sacrifice herself to save her parents. This was her last text message was sent to her friend. If I die, a bouquet of roses will mark the grave. She passed away in the concentration camp. The day she arrived in Chinese-occupied Turkestan, she was arrested, she was tortured, she passed away in the camp. She was murdered by the CCP. So we're here to memorize her. If anybody would like to take a picture, holding a picture with a bunch of roses in memory of Mikhai, you may please do so after the protest. Thank you, everyone.
The IOC has chosen to ignore the trauma of 2008 and allow China to once again benefit off of their colonization and destruction. Every time China is allowed to host, the IOC is choosing money and power over the human rights of millions. And every time China is able to host, the CCP attempt to portray Tibet as a conflict-free, prosperous region, which we all know is a grand lie. It's time for the Canadian government to take a stand and act as a global leader by participating in a diplomatic boycott against China hosting the 2022 Winter Olympics. We're also calling on the Canadian Olympic Committee and our athletes and corporations to join this boycott and support the Canadian communities present here today.
disappear.